Okay, in this video we're going to take you through how to get set up in adding a steel beam and a post, concrete pier footer, and sill plate to your foundation drawing. First thing that we need to do is take a look at the drawings themselves to see what is different from the original foundation. I would also recommend saving your foundation drawing so that you have a save as with a new REVIT file, so that you rename the REVIT file as it says here in level, or in the first step. Save your simple house foundation again, simple house foundation with steel beam, post, pier, and TJI joist. Then you're going to review the sheets and identify the changes. One of the big changes you need to look at, and a change first, is that we're changing the floor system. We're not using a 2x12 anymore. We're going to change this to be an 11 7/8 TJI floor joist in our REVIT file. So to do that, we're going to jump back into our REVIT drawing, and one of the first things we'll do is in our section view, we will select our floor system. We will come over to our properties, and we will hit edit type. When we go into edit type, we can now duplicate this floor, and we can rename this so that it is the proper name that is in our note. So when I rename this thing, I will go ahead and name this a TJI 11 7/8 floor joist, and then I'll add the batt insulation. I'm going to then reuse this name as my material, so we'll go ahead and accept that as the name for the floor joist system. Then we're going to go into structure, so I'll jump here into the edit for the structure and then go in and find the material that I want to set up. In this material column is where my 2x12 SPF joist is located. I'll go ahead and I'll set this material up right away. Activate my materials. I will use this 2x12 SPF joist batt insulation, so I can go ahead and duplicate it. I will duplicate that material at the bottom. Then I'll come over to the identity for that duplicated material, and I can then set up and paste what I just copied as the name of my wall. I can go ahead and I can start to delete. I don't need a lot of this information. I will keep this 16 inches OC, that's 16 inches on center, and then I'll go ahead and keep the batt insulation as well. That keeps that note set up as far as the spacing of the joists go. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that description. I will copy that description and paste that into the name up here as well. What that does is keeps everything nice and clean all the way through my drawing. I can go ahead and hit apply. Hit OK, and now I'm back into editing my wall system. After you set up the material, we'll go over here to thickness, and that's where we go ahead and set up 11 7/8. Once you set the thickness up, we can hit OK. We can come back, hit OK again. You can see that this is our new floor system. And then we can immediately see that the floor system pushed down into the foundation area. And now we need to go ahead and change our levels so that we push all of our levels down so that our floor system does not interfere with our sill plate. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have to set up how do we move our foundation levels and wall down so that our sill plate does not interfere with our floor system. We also want to do it so that all sides of the house are cleaned up too, because this is going to happen everywhere. So we have to do this sort of globally on our entire model. So one of the ways you could do this is you can highlight both of your levels at the same time by doing a right panning window across those levels as I did. Then I'm going to grab my move tool off of my modify bar. When I zoom in, I can zoom in pretty close here, grab the top of the sill plate, left click, you don't have to hold it, and then I'm going to move down to where I want to place it. And I want to place it at the bottom of the floor joist. And then I go ahead and click. When I do that, it then pushes the levels down, it pushes the BO foundation and TO foundation, and it maintains the height of my foundation wall. So my foundation wall should still be 8 feet. It should not be crunched or changed by doing this. All right, so now with the wall set up, we have our sill plate in place. The levels are now correct. We're going to jump back to the assignment and take a look and see what type of beam is being called out here for this design. So the beam is saying here that this is an 8x31 W flange. This is an 8x31 wide flange beam. So let's go into REVIT and we're going to go ahead and add that beam. So I'll jump back into Revit, and then what I want to do is get into, say, my BO foundation drawing. So I want to be on my BO foundation drawing so that when I add the beam, I'm able to see it in my section view. So what I'll do is, with this setup, I'm going to go ahead and actually select the floor system and override this graphic so I don't have all of the surface patterns in my way, just to clean it up a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is, now we're going to go ahead and we'll add our beam. To do this, we go over here to the Structure tab at the top of the screen, Architecture and then Structure. Then obviously there's a little beam button. Click on the beam button. I'm not going to save right now. Then the beams pop up over here, just like we do walls, just like we do windows, anything else. Now this is a W12 by 26. This is a much larger beam than what we need. So we need to load a family. So now we go to Load Family, and then we come through here and we are looking for Structural Framing. So in Structural Framing, we get into that folder. We get into the next folder here, which is going to be Steel, because it's a steel beam. Then we start looking down here, and we're looking for the W beam. So there they are. It says W wide flange. So this is a wide flange W beam. Little preview will pop up. That's what it looks like. And then we hit Open. Now this is the beam chart. This gives us a ton of different beams, starting with a W44. That means this is a beam that is 44 inches in height. Way too big. So just start sliding down. As you're going down, keep looking, keep looking. We're the 12s, the 10s, there we're in the 8s. And I believe it said that we were looking for a W8 by 31. When we find W831, this is the beam that we're going to select. We'll hit OK. And now we're ready to go and draw this in Revit. Okay, with the 831 selected, now we're ready to draw this beam across our structure. All right, so we have the 831. Well, let me make sure I have it selected. And then what I should be able to do is zoom in, and I just want to draw this wall from one side of my foundation, going from the midpoint on the center line of the wall. You see a little purple triangle pop up there. I'm going to left click on that, and I'm going to draw down across to the other side. And I'm going to go into the middle of that wall so that the midpoint pops up on the wall, and then the center line of the wall selects as well. This is going to give me a beam pocket where the beam is going to then run into the wall. Okay. Now, I'll go ahead and left click and select that. So this runs my beam. I'm now ready to hit escape. I don't need to make more beams. So I'm going to hit escape. And I'm going to hit escape again. That exits the beam command. Now I want to go back to my section. So when I go back into my section here, I want to be able to find where's my beam. Well, in my section, my beam was placed down here underneath of my foundation. Okay, it's not a big deal. What we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to move this up into position. The beam needs to be moved up so it sits just below the TO foundation, because we will put a sill plate on top of the beam. All right. So what we want to do is we want to then set up the height offset here. So this is a start level offset, end level offset. All right. So we're going to go ahead in these two areas over here in our properties, and I'm going to type in 8 feet for the start level offset, and then 8 feet for the end level offset, and then come back into my drawing or hit apply, and you'll see that the beam jumps up into position. All right, with your beam in position, now what we're going to have to do is go back and take a look at the beam in your BO foundation. So when I go back to my BO foundation, lo and behold, my beam is missing. My beam is actually not missing. I have to adjust my view range. I just can't see it. So in my BO foundation, I'm going to then come over to my properties, and I'm going to adjust the view range. We've done this before a little bit, but this is where we are still learning and understanding what this view range means. So we need to take and we need to move up the cut plane, because right now our beam is all the way at the top of our associated level. So I'm going to take this top level and I'm going to move this up so that from the BO foundation, my top associated level will be 8 feet. Now, 8 feet is the top of my view range. Then I'm going to take my cut plane, and I need to move my cut plane up. So I'm going to take this thing up, and I want to be able to slice the beam. So I'm going to take this up to, say, 7 feet 6 inches. The bottom I'm going to leave alone, and then the view depth I'm going to leave alone. When I hit apply, what should happen is my beam should actually become visible. It should pop up right here. And what's happening is that my view range, if I go back to my section view, my view range has been moved from BO foundation, what that cut plane was at 4 feet. I've moved it up to this area, slicing into the beam at 7 feet 6 inches. That's why I'm able to see that. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead and add a footer underneath of the center of our beam. So to do this, I'm going to go to the BO foundation level. So we'll go here to floor plans, BO foundation, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate a wall so that I can have a footer. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to grab my wall tool. I'm going to go into here and I'm going to then find my footer wall. So this is my 24-inch concrete footer. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit edit type. I'm going to go ahead and rename this thing. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this thing, duplicate. I'm going to rename this thing the 36 by 36 inch by 36 inch, and we'll call this out as 12-inch deep. This is going to be a concrete footer, and we'll get rid of the 2 here and hit OK. Now I'm going to run back into this note just so I can take a look to see what do I have called out here in the note. It says 36 by 36 by 10 footer concrete cast in place concrete. So I'm going to go back and make that a change here in REVIT. We'll get back into rename this. Instead of this being a 12-inch, we'll make this a 10. Hit OK. And as I do that, I'm going to highlight all of this so I can use this and copy this to my materials. So we'll go ahead and jump into edit here and go into materials. And we're going to go into that concrete footer. We're going to duplicate this selected material. We'll then set this up and we're going to duplicate or paste our concrete footer into both positions. Hit apply, hit OK. Now we're ready to change the thickness. We're going to change this thickness to be a 3-foot thick wall and then hit OK. Once we get finished up here, we're going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw in a 3-foot by 3-foot wall system. And I'm going to make sure I'm set up here on wall center line. My base constraint is the BO foundation. Well, that's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and change this so that my base constraint, we'll leave it at BO foundation, base offset. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to push this thing down from the base -10 inches because it's going to be a 10-inch thick footer. And then my top constraint is going to go up to the BO foundation. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw in a 3-foot long wall so that when I have a 3-foot long wall, I now have a 3-by-3 footer. I'll select it, I'll grab it from the middle, and I'm going to take this to the middle of my beam. So I'm going to then find my middle point in my beam right there. There's my triangle, and that's set up. When I go back to my section view, what I should be able to see is now I have a foundation pier footer underneath of my floor system. I should be able to then grab the floor system or the wall. So I should be able to grab this pier footer, grab my join button, select my floor, and then select the pier footer. And what should happen is the stone, the level of stone should be cut out of the floor system so that the pier footer goes underneath of the concrete slab. Now we're ready to go ahead and start adding a steel column to our foundation system. Now that'll probably be set up here in another video. I'm running out of time. So look for that in a separate file.